Jay, I got a question for you.
All right.
How are you?
Man, if I were any better, that 1,000 pounds of rock sitting down in the bed of my pickup truck would be up 2 flights of stairs in my backyard. But it's not.
And look, I tried to figure out a way. Let me tell you, and this is easy for me to say because it's true, but I got a thing tomorrow, and the listeners can don't start laughing. The listeners.
Listen, I would expect it. Here was my thought.
I would do it. I would come in.
I appreciate it. But well, listen, my son who has a landscaping company and lives an hour away. It was his idea to use this material. And so I said, well, hey, you busy this weekend? He said, yeah, my son's got a baseball practice.
Did you ask him if he was busy before or after you sent me the picture of that rock? Say, hey, Matt, what you doing this weekend?
No, it was right after I sent him a picture of it. I said, is this what you're saying I should use? And he, yeah, that's it. That's perfect. It'll be great.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny, because dogs, and particularly German Shepherds, they will take every step you take, right? And particularly if you're doing something. And so I have been moving rock. And Olivia takes every step that I take. And the stairs I have to go up. She's right on your feet, and it's, And so this will show you the smallest of my character, man. It dawned on me that I bet I could make some saddlebags to fit Olivia.
I would do it, man.
And I think she could carry about 15 pounds of rock. And she's up and down the stairs with me every time I go. And so she might as well help.
I mean, how many of those marrow-bones does she get on a daily basis? My goodness.
I'd be embarrassed to tell you. Let me just put it this way.
It's time to start working for them.
Well, you asked me the other day what a pack of cigarettes cost. I told you I don't know, but I'll say this. She's getting 2 packs of the equivalent of 2 packs of cigarettes a day in marrow bones.
Well, it's time to start working some of that off. Well, I think saddlebags are the way. I mean, I don't think she'd even notice. Just she'd tote them up. Well, for those who don't know, you've got a little drainage problem. You got a little.
Yeah, I mean, we've had biblical rain down here, and my house is very much on a slope, and so finally water has started entering my yard from the high side, and it's washing away some of the lawn. And it's funny. My first solution, I tried to put a Band-Aid on it, man. I went and bought 10 bags, 50-pound bags of topsoil, and lugged them up there and spread it all out. And I said, this looks great. This is going to be perfect. I'll seed it, and everything will be fine. Well, that night a gully washer came, 2 inches of rain. I woke up the next morning. It was gone.
Wow.
Every bit of it was gone. I still don't know where it ended up. And so that's when I said, okay, I got to move the water.
Yeah, you got to just bite the bullet. Now, I'm a little surprised that you didn't come off your wallet and hire this one out. That's a job that I saw.
Yeah, it is, but I thought about it, man. But the problem is such a small job, honestly. I just don't know if I could get anybody to do it because material's not $500. And let's say labor, I don't know. Maybe they probably charge me a couple of grand. It's $2,500. Well, I bet I couldn't get somebody to come out and do a $2,500 job for a month.
The problem is, without getting in too much boring detail, but I know your home. The problem is there's no way to wheelbarrow it up.
No, it's all manual.
It's all by hand.
Well, now because when I put up another wall back there, those guys showed up with a gator, and then they struggled with my neighbor's yard. Because there is a gate access back there, and we talked to him, and he said he's fine. So yeah, I think if I were to hire somebody, they show up with a gator, or by side by side, and then they'd load it up and drive it up the hill through my neighbor's yard and come in the backyard. I, on the other hand, am going to make a canine saddlebag. And watch my German Shepherd Olivia take it up there 15 pounds at a time.
Yes. Someone, 4460, just said Sherpa J and his pack shepherd. So I like that idea. Like that a lot.
Well, I didn't know anything about riprap before this week, man. Never knew anything about riprap. I can tell you everything there is to know about riprap.
Riprap.
Riprap, one word.
Riprap. Okay. Well, that'll give me something.
Seen it.
Is that what is in the back of your truck?
That's what they call it. Yeah, that's what they call it. Yep.
Well, you know what we call that? Rocks.
Rocks.
Big rocks.
That's it. That's what I call it.
Just big rocks.
Well, they can charge more for it if they give it a fancy name. Kind of like lawyers using Latin.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Well, y'all get your questions in for Jay. We do it every week. We absolutely love it, and I hope that you do too. I think you do. 615-737-9986. If you have any questions, you can call them in, or you can dial them in on the super text line, and some questions are already coming in. Jay, have you got? I'm going to be honest with you, and this is just, we know each other a long time, over 2 decades, and I can be nothing but honest. There are so many judicial injunctions, so many lawsuits, so much effort going into the bureaucratic deep state in attempting to stymie Donald Trump. Some of it's, perhaps legitimate, and there's some legitimate questions about where executive branch power ends and, where congressional power should start and all of those things. But I've just become immune to it. I've just become nose blind to it.
Right.
Are you paying attention to any of this?
I am. There's some of them that I have very particular legal interest in, and it's particularly, for me, this idea of independent agencies. I'm particularly focused on the National Labor Relations Board, because my thoughts been clarified as we work through all this, Matt. It's really like in the 20th century, Congress trying to create a fourth branch of government, the bureaucracy.
Right.
Because we've talked about there's 3 branches. Judicial, we get it. That's the course. Although some of these are kind of quasi-judicial. Legislative, we get it. Executive, we get it. And the key sentence in the Constitution, you and I've read it, it says this: the executive power. There's one executive power. I think it's I don't think it says all. It says the executive power is vested in the President of the United States of America.
Yeah.
All of the executive power. Well, but Congress has created these agencies like the NLRB and some others. And then the president may have the power to appoint the people that are on them, but he doesn't have the authority to fire them. And so that's a lot of intellectual interest to me, Matt. So I've been following those kind of closely. All of the immigration deportation cases, I'm watching with less detail. That's just going to work itself out at the end.
Agreed.
I think the big bottom line question there is, are they going to, at the end of the day, are they going to have a person by person deportation hearing for the millions of people they want to deport? That's the bottom line question. Right. They were let in mass,
right,
in millions.
Right.
And there wasn't any individual determination there. Well, does there have to be an individual determination to kick them out of the country? That's what that's really all about, man. And I got to say that right now my instincts tell me that that's probably what's going to happen, with a few exceptions. There was a case that's coming out right now where the Obama administration granted like parole. There's this concept of paroling people into the country. What an odd word to use. And they just did that en masse.
Right.
They didn't do that person by person. Well, Trump revoked that en masse. He said, no, all these paroles are gone. Now, they may win that one.
Right.
But individual people that snuck across the border, and we caught them and now we won't send them home. They didn't come in under some formal government plan. They snuck in. I think that at the end of the day, every one of those people is going to be entitled to a little hearing. It's not going to be a big hearing. We're not talking about a 2-week trial. It may be a 2-hour hearing. But I think you can't just round them up, put them on a plane and send them to El Salvador.
Right. And the other big piece that I am paying attention to, and I don't want to say it wrong, and if I do, I know you'll get me back in line, but the idea of individual district judges on the federal level being able to create these injunctions that apply nationwide. Do you think the Supreme Court's going to put an answer to that question as to whether or not that's permissible?
No, absolutely. That question was argued, if not it was last week or two. That very narrow, very specific question is in front of the Supreme Court right now, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get some kind of answer. Don't know that it's going to be definitive. You know, sometimes they can kind of kick the ball.
They like to split the baby a lot at the Supreme Court.
That's right. But you know, I'll say this about that, man. Even if they say that you can't do that, here's what I predict they're going to do about that. They will say there are very narrow circumstances where district judges can issue nationwide injunctions. That's what I predict. I don't think they're going to say that that can never be done. And I don't think they was going to say that any judge can do it in any case. They're going to say there's this narrow category where it can be done, and the definition of that category will be vague, and then we'll just keep fighting about it.
Right.
But even the government concedes that the alternative, man, is to just go through the class action process that's been in the law for decades, and just certify a nationwide class. Even the government says that's permissible, and it has the same effect as a nationwide injunction, man. The only difference is it takes a little bit longer to get there, but not much. I mean, we're talking about like a month. You'll see what happens right now is they'll go in and file a lawsuit, and the injunction gets entered 3 days later. Well, you couldn't do that with a class action. You'd go in and file a lawsuit, and you wouldn't get a class. It would slow it down by a month. Well, in the grand scheme of things, does a month really matter?
Well, and this is just a new form of lawfare to me against a president that these folks don't like. And they've decided that they don't really have any authority or power to stop his executive orders. They don't have the authority or power to demand that Congress do so, because Congress is controlled by Republicans. And so they're going to use attempt to use the courts to thwart him as best they can. That's fine. But, hopefully, and I'm crossing my fingers on it, that we get at least what you're talking about, and that is a Supreme Court that says, you know what? No, I mean, you're not going to gum up the works for the United States of America in this way after this guy was elected to be the president of all the people.
Right. I agree with that. I think they're going to say, I'll just repeat myself. They will say that these nationwide injunctions can't be done except in very narrow circumstances.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the response that we're getting on the super text line over your, is it riprap?
I think it's riprap. R-I-P-R-A-P. Riprap.
Who is smarter, writes 0441. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the pile of rocks in the back of the truck, or the guy that filled the truck with rocks without a plan to move them to his backyard? That's good. That's good.
That's very funny. That's very funny.
I don't know who's smarter, but it ain't AOC. All right. Doc writes in and says, riprap is used to cover archaeological sites to discourage artifact hunters. You're welcome.
Wow.
Well,
wow. Okay, now that's cool.
That's very cool.
That's cool.
All right, some more serious questions coming in, too, and we'll get to your serious questions in just a moment. Right now, Richard in Murfreesboro has a question for Jay St. Clair. Hello, Richard. Good afternoon.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I'll kind of make it quick. My stepdad and my mother have been married since 2004. They've got a nice little house together. And I kind of heard that he is going, when he passes, he's going to will everything to his daughters from another marriage. Just a general question. If that was the case, would that leave my mother homeless in Tennessee?
Yeah, she can't be cut out, Richard. By law, the surviving spouse gets some share of the estate, and how much of that is a function of how long they were married. And how long have they been married?
Since 94.
So 2004. No, she will take 40%. Even if the will purports to cut her out, then by law, she can still claim 40% in Tennessee.
Okay, easy enough.
Yep.
Yeah, my sister.
No,
was
you
talking to me
can't
from Georgia.
disown. You cannot disown your spouse.
Okay, great. That's pretty much all I need to know. I need to know if I need to sit down and have a talk with them.
Yep. No, I'm glad you called, and I'm glad I actually looked specifically at that question a couple of weeks ago, so I have a high confidence that this legal advice is actually worth something.
Okay, great. Yeah, my sister called me from Georgia and said Georgia is like that, but Tennessee is not.
Yeah. Well, ask her where she got her law degree.
Mm-hmm.
I bet she got hers at
right
Harvard. Yeah, ask her, well, where'd you get your law degree? Harvard or Walmart? It's about the same thing.
Richard, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, Jay, where'd you get your law degree, buddy?
Yale.
Where'd you get your law degree, buddy? So funny. It's never not funny. One person says, if there's rock music and there's rap music, it stands to reason that somebody should come up with riprap music. Okay. Well, that's pretty good, too.
I like that.
I've got to figure out a way to transfer all of these photos that I'm getting from the super text line to my phone so I can get them to you, because there's a lot of good ones out there. Man, oh, man.
Oh, yeah. It's great. Yeah, it's great.
A lot of riprap stories. And I got we've got a couple of new listeners. One of the new listeners looks like a shepherd puppy, and the other is a little muddy-looking dog. This fella says, here's my two watching Jay and Matt on television on YouTube. How about that?
How sweet.
We got four-leggers watching us now. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So the Matt Murphy fan club is doubled in size.
That's what they obviously say. 1 and 1. That's right, 1 and 1. Would equal 2. And then, Patrina, one final pleasantry, and we'll get to some serious questions of the law. Patrina writes in and says, nincompoops is the best part of the day, but Fri-Jay is the best part of the week.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
And then she went on to say this, Jay. Hello, handsome. Oh, hey to you too, Matt. Well.
Hey, what was her name, man?
Patrina.
Ooh.
Very interesting.
Did she text that in?
She did.
Okay. We'll talk after the show about some digits.
Yeah, we will.
I need to have a little digit discussion with you, man.
I'm right there. I'd much rather talk about digits than riprap with you, because I know you look. And the other general line of thought here, Jay, is: are there no teenage boys in your neighborhood at all?
Well, let me think of the right way to say it. This isn't going to be apt, but it'll get the point across. Where I live is not quite Belmead, but it's the suburbs of Belmead. Mm-hmm. What do you think the chances are of hiring teenage boys in Belmead to come haul riprap up 2 flights of stairs? I mean, I would have to pay them in BMW. And that ain't happening. That ain't happening. The truth of the matter, Matt, is it's been, I have balance. I'm balance challenged. I got really poor balance, and I do balance exercises. So this has been a great exercise. I got 50 pounds of riprap, and I'm going up these 2 flights of stairs.
That's actually pretty good for you. That's good.
Yeah, it is. That's my justification.
All right. 0124 says, for Fri-Jay, my wife is dealing with the selling of her parents' home in a case where the state is recovering for both parents' stay in the same nursing home prior to death. Right. Should I, as the spouse, be required to sign the deed for the sale to be completed? We get nothing from the sale, and I don't believe the home has transferred to us. Signed, Keith.
Read that again. I couldn't quite follow it.
Yeah,
all.
Sure.
Who owns the house? The house right now is titled to the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them, I guess one died, and then the other one had, but because they got some money from the state for nursing, now the state wants the house.
Well, I'll just read it as he wrote it. I don't want to assume anything.
Okay.
My wife is dealing with the selling of her parents' home in a case where the state's recovering for both parents' stay in the same nursing home prior to their death.
Oh, okay.
So
they're
both passed away. Should I, as the spouse, be required to sign the deed for the sale to be completed? We get nothing from the sale, and I don't believe the home has transferred to us.
Well, it wouldn't transfer to y'all. It would transfer to her. So, no, I don't think your name's on the deed. I mean, unless in the will they gave it to the two of y'all.
Mm-hmm.
But that would surprise me. So I don't think you own it. I think that the only way you would have an ownership interest is if in the will they left the house to your wife and you, which would be a little bit unusual. So my guess is they either died without a will, in which case it goes just to your wife, or maybe they had a will and it went to her wife. But so unless unless the portion of the house was given to you in the will, you don't have any ownership interest, which means you don't have to sign a quick claim deed or anything else. Truth of the matter is you're really not involved in that transaction.
Right. Very good.
Legally, I mean, emotionally you are, right? But legally, no.
Makes sense. I hope that answers your question, Keith. Matt, Ask Jay, is a farm owned before marriage subject to divorce proceedings?
Yes. Yes. I mean, when you get married, well, let me think about this for a minute. Yes, it's subject to. Let me tell you how that works. Let's say before you got married, you owned a piece of property, and that piece of property is yours. It's just your name's the only person on that deed. And then you get married, and you don't put your wife's name on the deed. She doesn't own the property. You own it separately, independently. And then you go to a divorce. Well, the judge is going to, there's no formula for deciding how property gets divided in the divorce. It's done equitably. That's the word the law uses. And if I were a judge looking at the situation, I would probably take that independently owned piece of property into account, but that doesn't mean it goes 50-50. I would want to know how long were y'all married. I want to know, did y'all work that property together? Was it timber property? Was it farm property? Was it part of the married estate? Or did it sit out over there separately? So I'm sorry to give a lawyer-like answer, but that's the way we have to do it sometimes. It is not treated as if it was commonly owned, because it was not commonly owned, unless you put her name on the deed, which I'm guessing you didn't. So she's not automatically entitled to 50% of that. But the judge will take it into account. And the more that it had to do with y'all's marriage, the more the judge is likely to treat it as being part of the marital estate. If it just sat out there, was an independent investment, your wife was never involved in that, the judge may not even consider it. So the answer, I'm sorry, I didn't write his name down. I've been writing people's names down.
No, that's no name there. It's 1471.
Okay, good. Well, so the answer 1471 is an answer that the lawyers like to give a lot because we make a lot of money off of it.
Oh, here we go.
And Jay Harper, that answer is, it depends. It depends. I'd have to know a lot more facts. But no, it's not like a house that y'all have where you're both on the deed.
You know what I say, Jay, when Jay Harper, when St. Clair does the "It's depends" line. You know what else goes in depends? Poop.
Yes. Yes, I surmised that.
A lot of poop. No, that's well said. And so, Jay, if I'm hearing you correctly, a judge, if you think about it as a scale and, that equitably, and they're trying to...
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly right.
They might use that farmland, as a part of that, but...
That's right.
But it might not carry the same weight as it would if it was purchased after marriage or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
You said that exactly right. Yeah, put them on the scale. How much weight is given depends on all the facts and circumstances that we don't have.
That makes sense. 47 after the hour. Let's talk to Ernie. He's in Cottontown with a question for our legal man, Jay St. Clair. Hello, Ernie.
Good evening, guys. Love your show.
Thank you, Ernie.
I've got a quick question. I'll try to be quick. I never was, but...
Ernie, you're going to have to talk fast. If you're going to be quick, you're going to have to talk a lot faster than you're talking.
I
think you talk even slower than I do, Ernie.
I hung out in Gardendale and Tarrant City a whole lot back in the day when Matt was riding a tricycle. Anyway, that slowed me down.
Ernie, you talk slow, but you're quick with these jokes.
Yeah. Well, I've got a farm. My wife and I have been married 9 years, and I made a will. It's in my name. I had it before it was willed to me, and it's in my name. Been married 9 years. She put $50,000 in it when we built the home. I took 5 acres and set aside and willed it to her and her children.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it goes to my children. Well,
yeah, okay.
It appears now that I may outlive her. I always figured she'd outlive me. We don't know, but she's definitely...
No, we don't know. We don't know, Ernie. We sure don't.
If I outlive her, can I change my will?
Yep.
I'm not going to do her 2 children. I'm not going to mistreat them, but I'm not going to give them $250,000.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You absolutely change your will, and you ought to change your will, Ernie, because your wife no longer is alive. So once she passes away, and everybody listening to this ought to be thinking about this. If you're married and then your spouse dies, then change your will. And absolutely, you can change the will, Ernie, and you can change it to anything you want to. At that point, if you're not married, you're not bound to give anybody anything. If you want to leave your estate 100% to Matt Murphy, you're free to do that.
Oh, Ernie,
well,
I need to talk.
Yeah, well, I made him at the Glock store last year, but I've had cataracts this year, and I ain't going to get the cum dog.
Oh, Ernie, I hate that. And I remember you from last year. Dadgummit, I wish I could see you again.
I'm the old Vietnam vet.
Yep. Well, if you outlive your wife, Ernie, yes, you have every legal. You change your will right now, but you definitely ought to change it if you outlive her, and you can split it up among your kids and her kids as however you think's right.
Ernie, I love you, and I'm sorry.
And I trust you to do the right thing, Ernie.
And I'm sorry I got to run, but I do, Ernie, and I'm sorry that we're going to miss you tomorrow at the Glock store. Let me see. If it can be, this is interesting. If it can be proven, and these hypotheticals sometimes wear me out, but if it can be proven that someone other than Joe, well, you know what? I retract this question because it doesn't make sense. Because it says, if it can be proven that someone other than Biden used the auto pen for pardons, can they be overturned? Right. Well, the purpose of an auto pen is so the president wouldn't have to be there to sign it anyway.
Yeah, well, I'll say this about all that, man. This is going to be really interesting because I do not know the answer to that question. Let's say it turns out that they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that somebody signed pardons and Joe Biden didn't even know about it. I don't know how they could ever prove that. But let's say that proof develops.
Okay.
Then I don't think they're valid, man.
Wow.
But, I mean, that is sui generis. And I know you get excited when I talk Latin.
That just sounds so pretty. I don't know what it means, but it sounds so pretty. What sui generis? That means real generous, like a tip.
One of a kind. It's one of a kind.
Never happened.
I don't
before.
think no one has ever conceived that somebody would forge the president's signature to an important official document. I mean, if you put that in a movie, people would say you're crazy.
Wow. Well,
so that one is absolutely off the map.
But the trick there is to prove it. I mean, that's
right.
That's the trick. And some would say, "We'll bring Joe Biden before a deposition or whatever and question him." Well, I mean, if I'm Joe Biden's attorney, then, and I'm not arguing this, but I would argue, well, he's gotten worse. He was fine back then, but now he can't remember the names now, but he knew them then. That's what you would argue, and that's difficult to prove, but that's interesting. That's a different answer I thought you'd give.
But I'll be honest with you, that's like how many angels can dance on the head of a pin.
Right.
Because they will never be able to prove conclusively that Biden did not know that these papers were being signed. It's just not going to happen.
I hear you. Well, Jay, sadly, we are out of time. It's been a lot of fun. I would do some extended Fri-Jay, but you got riprap to move, buddy.
Maybe I get Patrina to help me load that stuff this weekend. What do you think?
Patrina's, she said that the Yale joke's always hilarious, And I am Jay's secret crush. I'm the OG crush. Jay, you know what that means? OG crush?
I have no idea.
That is the original secret crush on Jay St. Clair. That's OG stands for original.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I
got to get out more often, I guess.
I guess you do. And we're playing a little matchmaker here. Patrina said something about talking digits. Whoa.
All right, I'm starting to blush. I'm going to go see my riprap.
On that happy note, you go move some riprap around. Jay, we love you. Have a great weekend, friend.
Love you, brother.